Love isn't always simple, and passion often comes at a price. Welcome to Intrigue Romance, where secrets, betrayal, and forbidden desires collide. Tonight, we take you into a story you won't forget, where love is never what it seems. The pounding on the door startled Claire, yanking her out of the dreamless sleep she had fallen into. The room was dark, the glow from the streetlight outside casting eerie shadows across the walls. Her heart raced as the knocks came again, louder this time, echoing through her small apartment. "Claire, open up." "It's me," a voice called out. It was Adam. She pulled the blanket tighter around her shoulders, her mind racing. How had it come to this? Just months ago, her life had been stable, predictable, and painfully ordinary. Now, everything felt like it was teetering on the edge of chaos, and Adam was at the center of it. As she stood frozen, debating whether to answer, the events of the past few months played in her mind like a fragmented reel. Claire's life had always been about doing the right thing. She married young, at 23, to a man her parents adored. Peter was safe, dependable, and ambitious, a man who worked hard and believed in providing. But over time, the spark that had drawn her to him dimmed. Their conversations dwindled into monotone exchanges about bills, schedules, and work. Dinners together were spent in silence, broken only by the sound of utensils clinking against plates. Claire told herself that this was normal, that marriages inevitably settled into routine. But deep down, she felt something was missing, a sense of connection, of being truly seen. She first met Adam 6 months ago at the real estate office where she worked as a marketing consultant. Adam was the new sales manager, brought in to reinvigorate the team. He had a magnetic energy about him, the kind that made everyone in the room sit up and pay attention when he spoke. His confidence was infectious, his smile disarming. At first, their interactions were professional. Adam would stop by her desk to discuss campaign strategies, often lingering a little longer than necessary. Claire couldn't deny the flutter she felt whenever he complimented her ideas or asked about her weekend. It felt harmless, she reasoned. After all, Adam was just being friendly. But as weeks turned into months, their conversations grew more personal. One evening, after a particularly stressful day, Adam found her sitting alone in the office lounge, her head resting in her hands. "You okay?" he asked, his voice warm and genuine. Claire looked up, surprised. "Just a long day. I'll be fine." Adam sat down across from her, his gaze steady. "You don't have to pretend. Sometimes it helps to talk." Something in his tone broke through the walls Claire had built around herself. She found herself sharing things she hadn't told anyone about her struggling marriage, her feelings of inadequacy, and the loneliness that had settled into her bones. Adam listened without interrupting, his eyes filled with understanding. "I'm sorry you're going through this," he said softly. "You deserve to be happy, Claire." Those words stayed with her long after she left the office that night. She began to look forward to her interactions with Adam. He made her feel seen, valued in a way she hadn't felt in years. One evening, as they worked late on a project, Claire caught herself staring at him. He noticed and smiled, his blue eyes twinkling with mischief. "What?" he asked. "Nothing," she replied quickly, looking away, her cheeks flushing. "Claire," he said, his tone serious now. "You don't have to say it." "I feel it too." Her heart skipped a beat. She opened her mouth to protest, to insist that he was mistaken, but the words wouldn't come. She knew he was right. That night, as they parted ways in the parking lot, Adam stopped her. "Claire," he said, his voice low. "If you ever need someone to talk to, someone who really listens, I'm here." The sincerity in his eyes undid her. She nodded, unable to speak, and drove home with her mind spinning. As the weeks went by, their connection deepened. Adam became her confidant, her anchor. He encouraged her to pursue her passions, to believe in herself again. But the guilt of their growing bond weighed heavily on her. She tried to pull away, to create distance, but Adam wouldn't let her. "You begged me to never stop being here for you," he said one evening as they sat in his car after work. "And I won't. I can't." "But it's wrong," Claire whispered, tears streaming down her face. I'm still married. Being married doesn't mean you should sacrifice your happiness, Adam said, his voice firm. You deserve more than just existing, Claire. You deserve to feel alive. His words pierced through her, breaking down the last of her defenses. For the first time, she allowed herself to imagine a life outside the confines of her marriage, a life where she could be happy, where she could be herself. But Peter wasn't oblivious. He noticed the changes in Claire, the late nights, the distant look in her eyes, the way she seemed to light up when she talked about work. Is there someone else? He asked one evening, his voice cold and accusing. Claire hesitated, then shook her head. No, Peter. There's no one else. I'm just tired. But Peter didn't believe her. His suspicion grew, his accusations becoming more frequent and cutting. One night, after another fight, Claire packed a bag and left. She couldn't do it anymore. The lies, the guilt, the endless cycle of unhappiness. She drove to Adam's apartment, tears streaming down her face. When he opened the door, he didn't say a word. He simply pulled her into his arms and held her as she sobbed. You're safe now, he whispered. The sound of Adam's voice outside her door brought Claire back to the present. She took a deep breath, wiped her tears, and opened the door. Are you okay? He asked, stepping inside. I don't know, she admitted, her voice trembling. Adam cupped her face in his hands, his gaze steady. You begged me to never stop, and I won't. I'll be here for you, no matter what. Claire nodded, the weight in her chest lifting ever so slightly. For the first time in years, she felt a glimmer of hope. Their story was far from over, but for Claire, this was the beginning of something new, a chance to rewrite her life on her own terms, with someone who never stopped believing in her.